The Film Fella.
Hello. So I believe we are live now. I hope I've done all that right. Yeah. WandaVision episode 6 is there's a lot to unpack. I think a lot to unpack, but at the same time, not a right lot to talk about. I don't know if anyone else feels exactly the same way that I do, but yeah, it feels like a lot of stuff did happen, but without really going into all of the sort of fan theory territory that we've been sort of mulling over for the past few weeks. Hey up, Dan. How's it going? Thanks for joining. I know you said you were gonna, but thank you for getting up early and checking out WandaVision with me, so that I'm not all by myself just talking on the internet. So, yeah. Oh, I mean, we've already had a little witter outside of this stream about things that might be happening in the series. So again, for anyone that's new here, hi, welcome. The name's The Film Fella. I don't tend to tell anyone else my actual name's Jordan. It's a bit weird going around just telling everyone that your name's The Film Fella on the internet without actually introducing yourself. So my name's Jordan, and as you might have guessed, I'm a bit of a nerd. I like talking about Marvel-related things and whatnot. I do. I already know your thoughts and feelings, Dan. But we'll delve into it, and you can jump on board and add some stuff to the chat. But as I was saying, yeah, I am a bit of a comic book nerd, as you can see, along and amongst other things. And obviously, it's been very difficult recently to just get like quick videos out. So I thought I'll start a stream. We'll do this every Friday. If people want me to do a watch along, I'll start earlier. We can watch it together and do a stream. I don't know how interested people would be to do a watch along stream, but if not, we'll just do one of these after, and we'll talk about the things that I've noticed, some stuff that I've probably missed that you guys can mention in the chat or in the comments later on, and I'll obviously come back to this video once it's uploaded and we can discuss further. And yeah, we'll try and see how much stuff we actually get right and, what we get wrong, I guess. So without further ado, since I'll just sit here and waffle on forever, I'll go through the notes that, again, I've just got on my phone. If anyone wants to jump into the chat. I'm still quite new to this, so you will notice that my trail of thought will just disappear. I'll start reading something off of the phone, see a lovely message from one of you guys on the chat, and then it'll just completely break my trail of thought. So if you can steer me back on track, then yeah, go for it. So yeah, we all knew that this one was coming. It was a 90s episode. We're obviously going through the decades, one episode at a time at the moment. So we're up to the 90s now, and I'm a big fan of Malcolm in the Middle. I grew up watching Malcolm in the Middle back on Sky One. I don't know how many people still watch Sky One anymore. There's just Simpsons repeats, it seems, these days. But yeah, Malcolm in the Middle was obviously where they were sort of aiming for, with obviously the title opener as it comes on. And then like the sort of fourth wall break to camera, where the kids are sort of talking about what's going on and the fact that they're preparing for Halloween and whatnot. So I quite enjoyed that. It's not really any kind of Easter egg, it's just something I enjoyed. Let me know if you thought they should have gone with a different 90s sitcom in the comments, if there's one that you're a bit gutted that they didn't do, but it definitely felt like a Malcolm in the Middle episode. The costumes, obviously straight off the bat, it's a Halloween episode. It gives them all this creative license to be able to use and do comic book accurate costumes. Obviously, we're away from the days of the 90s comic book shows where, comic book movies, such as like the X-Men movies when they first came on the scene, where they were a bit coy to use like realistic bright yellow costumes for Wolverine, for example. That's why they had all those leather costumes, which is, looking back, they're a bit strange, but a bit dated. But obviously in this, they've got all that creative liberty to do whatever they want, mainly because it's set at Halloween, so they can all dress in weird costumes. So obviously you get the classic Scarlet Witch comic book costume, you get the classic Vision one, both the Wiccan and Speed costumes that you sort of see later on in the episode that the kids are wearing. And then also you've got Evan Peters' Quicksilver, who eventually dons a comic book accurate Quicksilver costume. We've got lots to talk about in terms of Evan Peters, but Yeah, I enjoyed that. It's just a nice silly bit in a show that's starting to get a little bit more serious, where they're just like, yeah, we'll just slap them in some silly costumes and see how it works. So yeah, the next thing that I've got here is your brother suppressed a lot of trauma. So this version of Quicksilver that we've got, which obviously, if you weren't aware, which funnily enough, my own fiance Abby, she didn't know what the big deal was in the previous episode in regards to Evan Peters turning up at the door. He is obviously, for most people that do know, he plays Quicksilver in the now defunct Fox Manyverse. Dietrich, if you do end up watching this, I am trying to get that to stick. The Fox Manyverse, it's like Fox and X-Men. It kind of works. I agree, Raji. Sorry if I've got your name wrong there, Rajdeep. That Marvel made the show really creepy. It is getting like super creepy. I think that the Halloween vibe really helped make it super creepy as well. So I do agree, mate, that is definitely where it seems to have headed towards. The show's always been a little bit creepy, but it's got even creepier with the Halloween sort of aspect to it. What have you put there? Agnes laughing and Pietro. Yeah, I agree. They obviously we had that Vision sort of reveal as well a few episodes back that was obviously super creepy as well. See, Dan, look, I know it sounds a little bit like some sort of furry sort of convention thing. Nothing against furries, by the way, before anyone gets upset. Foxyverse is what I said last week. I think Fox Manyverse was the one that I was originally trying to push on a previous podcast episode that I did. I've been trying to push it for a while. Dietrich from that Song from That Movies podcast was not having any of it. But, we'll keep trying until it eventually sticks. The Fox Manyverse. Let me know in the comments if you're into it. Look, Dan's into it. He's all game. I mean, it's gone now. It doesn't matter. Call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It's gone. And let's have a look. What have you put here? Agnes is definitely up to something. She wasn't even phased. Yeah, I agree. Me and Dan were talking about this outside of, obviously, before this stream, and I will get to that. I'm just going through the episode in order in order of the actual show, and we'll get to that. But there is definitely something very interesting going on with Agnes that kind of threw me a little bit as well. So yeah, the brother, the trauma stuff. It's interesting. It's almost like either Wanda or someone else has projected these thoughts and feelings onto the X-Men, the Quicksilver in that sense. Like it's projected Pietro onto I think he's not called Pietro, is he, in the X-Men universe? He's called Peter. Yeah, they've definitely, she's put that personification of her brother onto him, and those thoughts and feelings. So when he's put, your brother suppressed a lot of trauma, when they're talking about back in the days in Sokovia, when they were children, it's interesting. She also seems quite taken aback by it, like she didn't realise that this was what the dynamic was. She's quite interesting. What else have we got? So the old X, he sort of emphasises the old X, and then mentions the Y chromosome, obviously for being a male and whatnot. Which is quite interesting when they're on about the fact that he's going to be a father figure, because Vision's off doing his neighbourhood watch stuff, as he claims, which obviously we know is a big fib. And then she also mentions that she's imagined putting him into a pickled herring. Like I will imagine you into a pickled herring. So she's kind of aware that she can just change matters of reality there and then. She can do stuff to change people. Obviously, it's played off as a laugh that she's going to turn a brother into a pickled herring, because they're on about all the stuff when they were back in Sokovia, etc. It's obviously not a nice thing to be turned into. Very interesting. And also the thing that I did notice, obviously this I typed it down, but then obviously a few moments later it was very clear that it wasn't true. But I did put, is she controlling Vision again? It actually seems more like he's playing along. Obviously, when you get further into the episode, it's obvious that they're playing along. They're not. He's playing along. He's not reverted back to the Vision that was towing the line. What have you put here, Rajdeep? Theory about Hayward being a Skrull. Yeah, this is a theory that I have mentioned previously. I do think that he's possibly a Skrull, if not some other nefarious character. That I did mention last week that they've got the Secret Invasion TV show coming up, and obviously we've already seen the Skrulls reveal in Captain Marvel. showcasing them as more of an ally than a villain, which is obviously the opposite to the comics. It could be a case that the way to shoehorn this back into, a good and evil sort of dynamic is that there are some sort of sleeper cells of Skrulls that are maybe not happy with the arrangement that they've got with Earth, or the fact that they're sort of still looking for a home planet to properly live on. They don't want to work for humans. Whatever it is that they end up doing, it could be a case that a couple of these have, over the 5 years during the blip, started to spread across the different organisations, and maybe Hayward is one. Hey up, Joe, how's it going? Thanks for joining us, man. I don't think he's the X-Men Quicksilver. We see him dead and the bullets in him, or is she projected? I think she's projected it onto him. I will get to it, but I think that the only reason that they projected it onto him is that she's thinking about that moment when she had a brother, and like they're talking about, they're kind of talking about the fact that he's not really her Pietro in a way, and that his sort of version of Pietro is different. So therefore she's thought about her brother, which she's then projected onto him. And I think the reason that she's doing that is mainly because... Losing my trail of thought here, guys. I didn't expect so much activity in the chat. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. But what was I getting at? I do think it is the X-Men Quicksilver, because in the previous episode, a lot of people have gone on Reddit and things like that and have dug into it. The sort of the audio description mentions that it is Evan Peters from the X-Men universe. Obviously, that could be just explaining to people that are visually impaired or anything like that, or deaf, that they can see or understand that it is Evan Peters, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's him from the X-Men universe. But we obviously do get a reveal later on in this that kind of pushes towards that theory that it might actually be the X-Men, the Fox version, which I will get to. Let's rattle along. I'll jump into the comments as well in a second. I really appreciate the little discussion and debate that's going on there. I didn't expect anyone to be joining in, so thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. What have we got? So... Hayward, so obviously we had Rajdeep mention there that Hayward is obviously up to no good. The characters are starting to figure out that he's up to no good. I've suspected for a while that he's probably not who he says he is in some way, shape or form. Definitely form if he's a Skrull. But he mentions the whole nightmare ends. He wants the whole nightmare to end. Now, we've obviously, it's a bit on the nose for comic book fans, but we do have a Nightmare character in Marvel in the form of Nightmare, who is from a Nightmare dimension. He's usually a Doctor Strange villain. Could that be playing into it in some way? There is a few other mentions of sleep and nightmares that pop up later on that make me think that if they don't go down the sort of Mephisto Devil route, which could be a red herring, as me and Dan have sort of been chatting about outside of this, could they go with a safer bet and go with Nightmare? Because it might be an easier sell. I mentioned in the previous stream that in places such as China, for example, there is certain censorship regarding sort of spooky sort of elements of shows and movies, including the devil, etc., that has to go through censorship to be able to be done. It's a bit disappointing if that is the case and we never get a Mephisto, but if we get Nightmare, which you can obviously sort of play into a little bit, in that sense of some sort of nightmarish demon, then yeah, that I would accept that. And obviously with him saying wanting this whole nightmare to end, is Hayward potentially Nightmare? Is it just an on the nose reference that we can just sort of laugh off and it's nothing and I'm just looking into it and being silly? But I did write it down, just thought I'd share it, see what people think. Obviously I've put here, which is pretty bleeding obvious, but I've just put Hayward's up to something. Obviously they mentioned Hayward's up to something as well, Darcy, Wu and Monica. I also love that little team dynamic that's sort of building between them three. There has been talks that we might be getting a spin-off show with Wu and Darcy, and obviously we've got the Agents of Atlas from the comics, which is sort of headed by Jimmy Woo, as sort of like this kind of like weird mishmash team of people. So if that is the case, then I would be quite happy if that happens. And also, just he's a badass. Like he actually, I didn't actually ever expect him to just beat up random sword agents. Like that was pretty cool. Like to just see him and Monica just go toe to toe with a couple of sword agents and sort of them go off and do their own little secret mission. with Darcy, which was pretty cool. There is obviously kids in this episode. We've seen in the trailers there's kids. It's Halloween. There has to be kids. We'll come back to that because obviously it gets mentioned and picked up on by a certain character later on, which kind of does link into the nightmare thing. So I will get to it. We've also got a really on the nose thing from Quicksilver, from Evan Peters, where he goes, "Unleash hell, demon spawn." He's obviously been that sort of crazy uncle character where he's just shouting it at the kids. But that obviously carries more weight because obviously in the comics, the kids are sort of the fragments of Mephisto's soul that, end up being part of the villain pandemonium. Like, it's crazy. Like, it is mental, like, how that all ties in. But that could be just a throw off line. It could be another one of those red herrings that we've just mentioned, where they're basically just saying "Unleash hell, demon spawn," just so everyone goes, "Oh, Mephisto," when in reality it probably might not be him at all. But yeah, thought that was quite interesting. He's obviously just saying it because he's the cool sort of laid back uncle, and it's just a silly thing to say. It's kind of like almost like a very 90s sort of phrase, I guess, in a way, that he's talking about his nephews, I guess. But I thought it was quite funny. You've also got the "you're testing me, I know I look different." So he's completely self-aware. Quicksilver at this point is completely self-aware. He's almost taken over the role of Agnes in this episode, in that he knows what's going on, but he also is playing along. So it's almost like all of this, everything that he's saying, is being fed into him from Wanda, and he's just saying, she's trying to figure it out in her own mind, so it's just coming out from his mouth. Alternatively, he might have some awareness of where he's been previously, where he's come from, but also, at the same time, he might be, trying to figure out how he's got there as well, and it's coming out in these sort of, sitcom-like lines where he's just sort of breaking the fourth wall and a kind of bantery brother and sister, vibe. It's quite interesting to me, at least. So yeah, we'll keep delving down that rabbit hole. I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments just to see what people are saying. I genuinely did not expect any interaction. I never do. I've been told off by my friend Beard Meets Food for sort of downplaying myself, so I'll try not to. I'll try and be super confident and just expect people to listen to me. But yeah, thanks guys. I didn't expect anyone to be jumping in and chatting. So what have we got? So we mentioned about Joe not thinking it's the X-Men Quicksilver. We've got so this is all fake. It's all a fake reality, and Wanda is in her own head. Doctor Strange is watching over her and he's trying to wake her up. I would say, before we got more reveals of Sword, that this could be something that's happening, but now I do feel like the things that are happening with Sword make that, even though it's a great theory, it kind of makes it slightly null, in the sense that I feel if that was happening, she wouldn't be just imagining, especially three characters that we've got in Wu, Darcy, and in Monica Rambeau that we've never seen before. Rather, she's never seen before, we've seen before. And all of that sort of interconnectivity with those characters in regards to each other, but also, the backstory with Monica and Captain Marvel, etc., and so forth. I think that would probably take it away from that, even though it is a great theory. I do think it still, for me, seems like it would be very silly if Doctor Strange does not turn up at some point to try and deal with this reality-bending anomaly. Like, what else could he possibly be doing? Unless this is happening Unless this is happening concurrently with what happens in the Multiverse of Madness before Wanda, because we know she's in that film, turns up. What reason would there be for Stephen Strange to not be getting involved at the stage? Like, she's, as we see at the end of the episode, which we'll get to, things are escalating quite dramatically. But yeah, great. It's a great theory. Like, I was on there with the whole, is this all just in Wanda's head? Like, is she just making it up? But I've kind of come away from that since we've had more characters come in the fold. It just seems a little bit implausible for me. What else have we got? Yeah, Joe. Yeah, to be fair, it's kind of like a weird sort of play on domestic abuse. So Joe's put, in case anyone can't see this when they're watching later, that she's not controlling Vision, but he's being controlled and being restricted on what he can do and what he can wear. He even mentions, doesn't he, that he's literally only got in his wardrobe the costume that he's wearing for Halloween. So poor old Vision is there. Yeah, it does. It's kind of like a psychological domestic abuse story, because like he's sort of clearly at this point has had enough and wants to try and help the people of Westview, obviously, as we see later on, and yet still, he's also trapped. What else have we got? So Rajdeep's put that maybe that Pietro is Doctor Strange. Yeah, again, I did think in a way, especially with what you mentioned before, with if someone or somehow he's sort of in her mind trying to help her get out of this, which I don't think is the case. But if it is, it would make sense to project yourself into someone that she's familiar with to reveal what's going on. Like she's revealed more in this episode to Pietro than she has even to Vision. We as an audience, we've understood more about what's going on because she's been more open, because obviously they've got that connection because they're brother and sister. So yeah, it could make sense that if he's not real and it's all just completely fake, that yeah, it could be Strange that's sort of popped in there. What else have we got? Yeah, I did see the line related to Kick-Ass as well. So obviously the Aaron Taylor Johnson reference. I sort of picked up on that, didn't write it down, and thought she does mention it, and then she mentions it again later on. It's obviously like quite a 90s term, like Kick-Ass, but also the film with her on-screen brother being in as well was quite cool. Let's have a look. I'm just reading the comments, guys. Sorry if I got a little bit quiet. Phyllis inside to him where he says he can talk to him, gaining trust for knowledge. Yeah, there's definitely something untoward or slightly sinister about that. I guess that Pietro is gaining trust to be able to understand more about what's going on. Yes, the Magneto cameo is the one that Rajdeep's mentioned here, that he thinks that there might be a Magneto cameo. It's got to be heading in some way, shape or form towards that, even if it's just a nod, even if we don't get someone, even if we don't get a previous actor to be pulled through again, through this reality change, for that very reason. I don't know if we'll get any Ian McKellen or wow. A Michael Fassbender. There you go. See, look, my mind just disappears into the ether when I'm doing this. But either of those two would be really cool if they pop up. I don't know if we'll get a new casting completely, or whether we'll just get a reference or a nod that maybe her parents weren't her actual parents, as is in the comic storyline, that she was adopted because she was originally, Magneto's children. So that'll be interesting. All right, I'm going to dip back into the old phone box just to see what else I've got. I was just seeing what you guys were all talking about. Welcome aboard, Apollo Cameron. What have you put? I think by the end, the Hex will engulf the Earth, but Wanda will be the one to shut it down. But her powers will change. Yes, I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to the ending, but it does very much feel like they're pushing for a reverse House of M. Which we've all speculated a little bit, haven't we, that it might be a reverse House of M situation. Yeah, no worries, Apollo. I knew you meant shut it, not shut up. I read it out as shut up as well, which didn't make any sense. So sorry, guys, if everyone thought I was just being mean. Right, I'm going to jump back into for anyone that's new that's joined, I'm literally just going through the episode beat by beat, note by note that I've taken. Obviously, jump in the comments, mention your own thoughts, theories, etc. I will read them out at some point, and also we'll discuss them in more detail. I'm very new to this whole streaming thing, so if I just break my trail of thought every so often, it's because I'm reading some of the comments that have popped up. I will get better, I promise. Right, let's see. So we got to Vision playing along and sort of, he's lying to her in the fact that he's not actually doing anything with the neighbourhood watch. We've obviously got Herb that then mentions this and also then says, do you want something changed? So there is this sort of like hidden, suppressed understanding that they can, that they are in this weird sitcom, or this weird sort of reality bubble. They are aware of it. Obviously, they're in pain, as we can tell when they come out of it. But there's some sort of subconscious, knowledge that they are part of something that's being manipulated. Happy birthday, Apollo Cameron! What a great day. To have your birthday on episode 6 of WandaVision, and thanks for joining me on my super tiny stream. I hope you have a good day. I'm not sure whereabouts in the world you are, but if you're in lockdown or whatever, I hope you make the most of it. Maybe have a Marvel rewatch. I don't know. That's what I did when it was my birthday last year. I just watched all the Marvel films on Disney Plus, because I'm sad. So yeah, the townspeople are aware of these changes, and like my good friend on the YouTubes from the other side of the globe. So obviously I'm in the UK in Leeds. Obviously my YouTube friend Roast Turkey is over in Florida. He's probably, don't know if he'll be awake yet. I don't know if he'll be seeing this, but he did mention on his last WandaVision roundup that a lot of what the townspeople say almost could be just her sort of suppressed thoughts that are just coming out of their mouths. So obviously when he's mentioned, do you want me to change? Do you want me to do something different? It could be that awareness is coming through in that. Obviously we got the crying washing lady, so obviously we know that they're all in pain, they're all struggling. I thought that was quite an interesting, quite disturbing scene in a way. She's obviously clearly putting up a washing, but at the same time it's not a washing, it's the cobweb for the Halloween decorations. And as we saw, the further away he moves from the epicenter of where Wanda is, which in the comics, like Wiccan and Speed, only exists because she's thinking about them. It could be the same thing, that she's got the whole town in this hex, but at the same time, unless she's in sort of the general vicinity, she can't control everyone all the time. She did mention she couldn't send people to the dentists and things like that before. So they're kind of just frozen in animation in whatever decade she's set out for the show. And if she comes to that area, maybe they then spark into life and just start acting like people that are, doing trick-or-treating or whatever it is. And obviously in this case, that woman's in sort of like midway between breaking down and being paused, I guess, which was really cool and really creepy. Let's see, what else have we got? So, Quicksilver recalling how he ended up there. So this is the bit that I was going to go back to what Joe mentioned before, where he's not sure if it is the X-Men Fox version of Quicksilver. Now, I think it is, because obviously, other than the little dribbles of information that we've got previously, obviously before I thought it might have been someone masquerading as him in some way, or maybe some figment of her imagination. But I do feel like now, with him recalling how he ended up there, even though it was very some random pop-ups come up. How rude of said random pop-up. I'm back. So it's strange to me that he would then be recalling how he just appeared, and he basically just says that he sort of appeared on the street. He's not really sure how. He's still in character when he's talking about this, so he's still trying to be like that cool Uncle Bro type character that she's sort of painted him as. But he's saying, I'm not really sure how I ended up here. I'm not really sure what's going on. Just popped in the street and then I felt you calling for me. So again, is it this subliminal sort of feeling? Like she mentions before that she's feeling lost, alone, sad. All of these feelings which have sort of opened up this locked sort of ability that she had to be able to do what she's doing, or some nefarious other being or person has sort of prompted her in this direction. To me, I just feel like he has been just plucked from a different reality, and he's kind of aware of it, but he's also only aware of it in the same sense that she's trying to figure it out. So he's sort of saying out loud how she's trying to figure out how he's got there in the first place. Sort of like a human soundboard is the best way that I could sort of describe it. Obviously, don't go past Ellis Avenue that we obviously got, because it's obviously the barrier. It's the barrier by the sounds of it that's on the very side where the sword agents are. Obviously, me and Dan had a conversation about this outside of the stream, which I'll get to in a second. One of Hayward's devices in the circle is obviously tracking Vision. Obviously, we saw that he'd been broken up into a million tiny little pieces and was being dissected over 5 years by Sword for who knows what reason. Obviously, they're a sentient organisation. They're monitoring sentient beings, devices, etc. For sort of weapons technology and things like that. And obviously in the comics, as I mentioned last week, the reason that he's grey, etc., blah, 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 is to do with the Vision Quest storyline. So he has been broken up into pieces before in the comics and experimented on or tested out by various government organisations to try and stop him falling into the wrong hands. Sounds like he might have fallen into the wrong hands or into a splinter cell of Sword that are the wrong hands, a la Hydra from the Shield fall as well. It's a similar thing. It sounds like we're treading over old ground, but maybe it ties into Secret Invasion, which is what I'm expecting. I'm just going to have a look at the comments again, guys, so just 1 second. What have we got? Mutants in the MCU will come from people being changed in the Hex. Yes, we'll get to that. But I definitely agree. Me and Dan were talking about this just before this stream. Apollo, what have you got? I totally agree. She's using the people of the towns almost as speaking boxes. She's giving them scripts by manipulating them into leading lives. She is designed for them. He said he got shot, then heard her name. Ah, right. Okay, I missed that. So maybe this is just that she just doesn't want to see him look the same, and maybe it is sort of zombie corpse Pietro, which we've never actually seen where his body ever went. I'm presuming buried in Sokovia, but I'm not sure. Unless anyone knows, put in the comments. But we've never actually seen him since he died. So maybe she has just dragged him through the earth and he's just popped up from being shot and it's his last memory, or maybe she's implanted his memory. Cheers as well, Apollo, for subscribing. Really appreciate that. Let's have a look. What else have we got? So, yeah, Hayward, for me, the thing that was bugging me for a little while is that it feels like Hayward was almost definitely aware of this entire situation prior to this happening. Obviously, it happened a few weeks after the blip when people returned. Obviously, it started 9 or 10 days ago now in the context of the story. They have footage of her breaking into the same building that the same building that Monica tried to get in with a pass when she was first introduced to the series, which to me, even if people were hexed or she got into people's heads so that they all forgot that she was there, she blew off the doors and got in and got Vision and she wiped everyone's memory. The footage is still there on the cameras because they show it later. So there is no reason for me to believe that Hayward wasn't aware of all of this and was sending Monica in to what was about to evolve, should we say. He knew that something was going on from the get-go. And I didn't mention this on the last video. I went for a walk. I don't know if Kane will eventually watch this. He hasn't watched the episode yet. He messaged me this morning. But we went for a walk the other week, and I had pointed out in the episode where it shows the Sword base from the outside, like you get with most Marvel locations, it comes up and tells you where the location is, and there's like a little pan shot, and it zoomed in, and we saw her in the foyer, like trying to get into the building. Not only have obviously other people picked up on, crazier tinfoil hat people than myself have picked up on, like the hexagons on the carpet, the hexagon shape of his pictures in his room, all of that. There is, for me, I don't know if you need to go back and look at it. I'm pretty sure I'm right with this one, but the outside of the base, the road, the internal road for the base, like you get with most sort of army barracks and things like that, it looks like it's a hexagonal shape as well. I could be wrong, but it almost looks like from that first pan shot that the actual surrounding area is hexagonal. Now, I was saying to Kane, what if the reason why it's a hexagonal shape, other than all the other reasons, it could be a combination of every reason that we've had so far, but what if one of the reasons is that she found out where Vision was when she came back from the blip and was trying to plan some sort of, assault, on the Sword base, how do I get in? What's the, and obviously when you get those maps and stuff, you do get the shape of what, the look at the layout for the base or whatever. So maybe that plays into it as well. I could be reading too far into it. I could be completely wrong, but that's what all the fun of talking about all this is in the first place, I guess. I'll keep going through my notes anyway. So what else have we got? Yeah, I mentioned the further away from Wanda everyone is frozen bit. We've obviously got... so this is the bit that people keep mentioning in the comments, the bit that me and Dan were talking about before this episode, before this stream, should I say, not this episode. Is Agnes broken too? Obviously, we all seem to think that she's going to be Agatha Harkness in some way, shape, or form. She's even dressed as a witch, which is pretty on the nose. But is this another red herring? Who knows? She obviously is also asking. She's sort of like broken because she's on the edge of Ellis Avenue, and she's also broken as well. She's like stopped. Vision sort of reanimates her, unlocks her, whatever you want to call it, and she is also unaware what's going on. She also mentions that Wanda is doing this to us. This could all be red herrings, and she could be playing along because, as Dan mentioned, I'll give you full credit here, mate, because I didn't think about it myself, but she is on the street that she's told her children not to go near. Is she just watching? Is she just staying just to make sure they don't go up there to lead them back? Was she just playing sort of possum in the broken sense just to, put Vision off? I'm not 100% convinced on that. I do think that in some way something has happened to her as well. Even, we've speculated that she might be either the antagonist or part of not maybe the antagonist, but the way that Wanda has done what she's doing, or she's led her to the place. Obviously, I've mentioned in one of my non-stream videos that I think Westview may indeed be, the MCU's version of New Salem. I'm probably wrong, but it was a fun thing to make a video on, so go check that out if you want. It to me feels like maybe she's been engulfed by it as well, and maybe she is sort of aware, but at the same time she's not powerful enough to push back enough to be fully aware of what's going on all of the time. And obviously she's moved further away, and what the other thing is, could she have been trying to get out? Could it have gone too far and she's just trying to get out? I don't know. I honestly don't know. This was the bit that kind of, for me in this episode, really broke me, because it really made it very difficult to figure out where the series is going. It has kind of flipped it on its head a little bit. It does feel like it's going down more of the House of M sort of storyline now. What's Dan put? I don't think she's there to send him back, but certainly not a coincidence that she was sat waiting there, as it seems like that is the entrance or exit, so to speak. Yeah. So, as I say, full credit to Dan for pointing this out to me before. But, yeah, it's interesting. Of all the people, where everyone else was, for her to be just parked up and facing there. It could have even been that she's sort of subliminally leading him on to, I'm pointing this way, why am I pointing this way? Or because Vision is sort of slowly learning things, it eggs him on to going forward to try and get out. Who knows? She obviously then informs Vision that he was dead. So going from this point onwards, she's mentioned the word Avengers, doesn't know what the Avengers are. She's mentioned that he's dead. He doesn't believe he's dead. Obviously, when he gets out, if he's retained the memories from when he got out, I definitely feel like he'll be more on the side of understanding that he's dead. But yeah, we'll have to see maybe in the next episode when we're into the noughties or whatever variation of show that we get. I don't know whether it's going to go to the noughties and then to the sort of 2010s. So I don't know if I don't know what it's going to parody next. I don't know whether it's going to jump straight to like the Modern Family episode that we've seen, or whether that's going to be more in episode 8. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe The Office or something like that. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think if anyone can think of what like sort of early 2000s show. I've seen a lot of rumours, obviously, of all the different shows that they were picking up from. Off the top of my head, I can't think what it would be. We also got the reveal, which obviously this pushes towards the mutant outbreak thing that Joe's mentioned, that Dan's mentioned, that Apollo's mentioned. That you're all fully on this. Monica, by the looks of it, is turning into Spectrum. Now, for me, I don't know whether because Wanda is giving people what they want. Quicksilver has mentioned they got better jobs, they got things that they wanted, things that they've always wanted. She's very on point with the House of M sort of comic book storyline, and in that sense, is she, because she's wanted or she looked up to before this rift that she's clearly developed with with Carol, Captain Marvel. She wanted to be like her so much that she's now manifesting powers of a similar, like, we knows, if you're a comic book fan, you know that she's going to become Spectrum. She's going to have like these photon, like blast type powers, very similar to Captain Marvel, and be able to fly. I found out a lot of information, by the way. I admitted last week that, I used to collect comics. I don't so much anymore. I'm just a big fan of comic book properties in all forms. You know, I enjoy doing the research and looking into it, but you know, I don't want to sort of send the impression that you know, I've got stacks and stacks of comic books somewhere and that I know all this. This is just from my own personal enjoyment of the movies and the TV series and the comics and what I used to collect as a kid, that I've kind of dived in and started learning about these things. And you know, in that sense, I've learned a lot about Monica Rambeau. Obviously, he's a much bigger YouTuber than me, but if anyone's never watched Comic Drake, he's an excellent sort of source of all comic book knowledge. There's obviously Comics Explained and Comic Story and other guys like that I've been watching for years, but Comics Drake's pretty cool. And he's just done a video on Monica Rambeau, and it's like everything. And I didn't even know this, but she was originally the original Captain Marvel, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of stuff that I learned that I didn't really know about that you won't necessarily get from just diving on Wikipedia and fan forums. Like if you want to really know stuff, you know, seek out the information or buy the comics. For me, it's more of a case of seeking out the information. But yeah, it does feel like a reverse House of M. Like is she unlocking some sort of innate mutant genes in people, you know, a la like how her and Pietro were. Maybe they already had the ability and the Mind Stone just sort of accelerated it and unlocked it in some way. Maybe there are always and always has been sort of like a mutant sort of evolutionary gene in humans in the MCU, and it's just been accelerated by everything that's happening. But it definitely seems to be pushing towards this is a reverse House of M situation. I can't wait for us all to be wrong when we get back to this. But that is the way everyone in the comments here seems to think the same. I think the same. It does feel like people that are in there, some of them going to become not necessarily X-Men, not necessarily big characters, maybe, well, you know, characters from the comics potentially, but not, you know, we're not going to get our full X-Men team just from New Jersey. It is interesting though that in that area, sort of New York, New Jersey, up that sort of way is sort of where a lot of the X-Men centric stuff comes from as well. So we'll see. Obviously, the other big one that I never mentioned the other week is that a lot of people think that Kamala Khan could be affected by this radius increase in some way. Obviously, she's an Inhuman as opposed to a mutant, as opposed to an X-Men, she's an Inhuman. There has been some links recently. There's been the tweet by the Inhumans Twitter account about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They've not tweeted in a good 2 years, and all of a sudden they've retweeted the trailer for that and told people to watch it. Now, it's either that all the Marvel property Twitter accounts are all just tweeting the same thing, but I definitely think, I'm not saying that the Inhuman series that got canned and was pretty pants is going to come back. What I am saying is that there is a rumour that Falcon and Winter Soldier's got some sort of like biological weapon in it, and maybe we're getting X-Men and the Inhumans, maybe we're getting the Terrigen crystals or the Terrigen mist released alongside sort of Weapon X related stuff that's been rumoured in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I know I've gone off on a little tangent, guys, but as I was saying, because Kamala Khan's from New Jersey and she's an Inhuman, could some of what Wanda's doing here with the radiation be part of that as well, or could that tie into the Falcon and Winter Soldier? We'll have to see. Obviously, they mentioned that Mum and Dad would have loved it. I don't know if that's a throwaway line or not from Pietro to Wanda. I don't know if it's just, you know, just brotherly dialogue or whether there's more to it. It's quite interesting. We obviously got like creepy animation as well for the cool sort of yogurt type thing. You know, you remember the adverts if you're sort of my age. 90s, just like being out there and crazy and wacky, and obviously it went very dark very, very quickly. It was quite disturbing. Obviously, I think it's mentioning survivors in the sense that they grew up survivors, her and her brother, from the parents being killed and whatnot in Sokovia. Possibly also potentially being starved by Hydra. I'm not sure. It was very interesting. The ads are definitely building to something. I think we're going to get creepier and creepier as we go, potentially. I'm just going to jump into the comments again, guys. I know I've just been waffling, so I'll see what people are saying. Let's have a look. So we've got Dan, you mentioned that about Agnes. I'm still trying to find a link to Woo's missing person. It still hasn't really been touched on the inside the show since he mentioned it. Could have missed things. And then Joe's got Modern Family version is in the trailer, but I think that'll be the last sitcom. Yeah, I do. I think that'll be the last one before we have a penultimate. That'll be the penultimate episode before the finale, where maybe things sort of come to a close and things sort of blow up and escalate. So yeah, I reckon you're right as well. It'd be interesting to see what, you know, what this next episode is. I can't think. If you've got any ideas for what it is, then let me know. For sort of like the noughties sort of sitcom episode, or we might not. We might get another sword centric episode that leads us into a Modern Family one and then into the finale. And yeah, the missing person stuff, Dan, I don't think it's actually being touched upon yet. There's definitely more to that than it seems like. Hayward sent Monica there, and for whatever reason, the universe, I'm not saying the universe actually sent him, but just in terms of the MCU, was being dragged into this in some way, shape or form for some reason. And in that case, you know, is there more than meets the eye in relation to the missing person? We'll have to see. I mean, one of my theories was that the Quicksilver that we've currently got could be just a regular town person, or one of the people, or the missing person that we've, you know, been waiting to find out. But we'll have to see. I mean, he is technically a missing person if he's come from a different universe. Have other people from the other universe come through and then reported him missing? I mean, that's proper reaching. Like, I'm really grasping at straws with that one. But it's interesting if they went that direction. Maybe they also don't know who they are. You know, if it turns out that it's Magneto or his mum that we see in a couple of the episodes or whatever. Or some other X-Men characters that they just drag through from sort of the X-Men, the Fox Manyverse, as I'm going to keep calling it. Who knows? What else have we got? Sorry, I've got loads of people just randomly. You know, I go through a week where no one wants to talk to me, and then as soon as I'm using my phone for something like this, everyone just wants to text me. Yeah, Ralph, as Dan's mentioned, is also technically missing. We've still not seen Ralph, the mysterious Ralph. It could be just that he could be just literally a figment of what Wanda's put into Agnes's head for her character, or there could be something more serious about that character that we're not aware of. I did notice as well, I haven't even typed this down, but when Agnes sort of comes through, she's clutching at her to see if she's okay. But also, unless I missed it, she wasn't wearing the brooch that she seems to have worn in every other version so far. And which kind of, because we haven't seen it up close, kind of looks like it might be satanic, or it might be pagan, or, you know, Wiccan, or something like that in that sense. It almost looked like she was looking for it. Could that be, and this is again probably just a big random one off the top of my head, but she wasn't fully aware of what was going on. She didn't look to be wearing the brooch. Could the brooch be the thing that sort of keeps her sort of from not realizing who she is, sort of, you know, like breaking the fourth wall like she was before? That she was always aware when she was wearing that brooch, and I'll have to watch it back because I could be wrong, but it didn't look like she was wearing it, and she panicked and was looking for it, and obviously it wasn't there, and she didn't know why she was parked up or anything. So could that be all tied together? Could there be some deeper meaning behind that brooch that she's wearing? Who knows? Right, I'm gonna get back to the episode stuff because I realised that I'm just eating up everyone's time. It's getting longer and longer. I expected these to be like little 20-minute things, and, you know, just going off on a tangent after tangent. So what else have we got? So yeah, this was the big thing for me. We've got the where were you hiding all these kids, which obviously Vision mentioned last time. Quicksilver wasn't even there before, but he's obviously aware that discussion has taken place. So again, is it this thought projection from other characters or from Wanda's own mind into there? We obviously got the kind of sinister thing where he's like, you know, you didn't want to traumatize them, leaving them sleeping in their beds. Now, the sleeping in their beds thing could be just a completely throwaway line, but we had Nightmare mentioned before. We've got Nightmare sort of in the context of some comics where he gets into people's dreams and attacks people in a nightmare dimension if they're asleep. Again, I don't know. I could be really grasping at straws here if it is him as opposed to Mephisto, or if it's indeed any kind of demon entity from a different reality at all, and it's not just Wanda, which is obviously the biggest of big red herrings we could possibly have. That obviously people are all saying, well, it could be her, and then a lot of people saying, well, it can't be her because they're going to flip it and do something else. Maybe we're all being played and it is just her, and there's nothing bigger or deeper to this at all other than an introduction of mutants into the MCU via her. Could be as simple as that. So yeah, he's asking how she's managed it, and he starts talking about all the ethical stuff and the morally grey stuff about what she's doing, and she's even questioning it herself, to the point where she's like, well, do you think I'm doing the right thing? And like, obviously, because he's he's still playing whatever she perceives to be her brother in whatever shape or form, and therefore he's just agreeing with her anyway. So whether he disagreed or not, to me it feels like it's just playing out from her head. She's having this argument with herself in a way, and she's just decided that she's done the best thing for the children to keep them safe, to not traumatize them. She pulled them out for a Halloween episode, and there's not much more to it, but the sleeping stuff throws me towards the nightmare end of the spectrum, so we'll see. He mentions that he's not some stranger, which, he is. He is some stranger. He completely 100% is a stranger, whether he's the Evan Peters character from the X-Men, the Fox Manyverse. I'm going to keep trying that until it sticks. Or whether he is just a town person that's been projected on this Quicksilver sort of image, or whether he is some sort of walking, rotting zombie corpse of Aaron Taylor Johnson that we obviously can't see because he's not in the show, maybe, and she's just put a new skin on him. Like, I don't know what's cool I can mention to the kids. Skins is no one watches Skins anymore. I'm trying to think, like Fortnite, maybe. Fortnite, you get new skins in Fortnite. Is that a thing? Am I wrong? Am I too old? Probably too old. But yeah, it does feel like things are breaking down in that respect. She also again mentions that she had no idea how she did it, and that she just felt alone and desperate, and it kind of just happened, which sort of makes me feel like she might have been egged on or pulled or drawn by someone else who's fed off of these emotions. Alternatively, these emotions have just sort of just unlocked. She's gone through so much trauma and grief already in the iteration we've seen in the MCU that maybe she's just finally cracked, and the powers of either her own mutant genes that she might have already had, which is how we might get an explainer that there's always been mutants, and it's just a gene that sometimes unlocks over time. In this sense, it could be that it's just pushed beyond that, and she's just discovered and manifested new powers. We'll have to see. We've got obviously, as Joe mentioned earlier, we've got the bullet holes version of Quicksilver, where she quickly glances at him, a bit like that Vision sort of reveal a few episodes back, and he's a bit zombified. I thought they might have gone a bit scarier with how he looked than what he did. He just looked a bit greyed out and a bit like, almost like original sort of Night of the Living Dead kind of zombie, as just a person in grey makeup with a bit of blood or whatever. He didn't seem too terrifying, but maybe that's because obviously the show's still sort of aimed at kids in some way, shape or form. So in that sense, that could be what that is. I don't know if this has been picked up on the microphone or not, but my door's just gone, so I do apologise if anyone's just heard my doorbell. So yeah, that was interesting. Is it Quicksilver being reanimated from the MCU timeline, or is she just projecting that image because it's the last sort of image that she had of him before his death? Vision gets out, so we're getting towards the end here. I don't know if anyone's still there in the comments. Is anyone still there? Say hello. Let me know that you're still here. But yeah, Vision gets out. He's falling apart. So clearly, my theory that anything that comes out of the bubble is changed or alive. Cheers, Dan. Zombies are confirmed. I do think that in some way, shape or form, from my previous video, zombies, maybe not in the traditional sense, but there is references to zombies that have been mentioned in the old comics as well. The Vision and the Scarlet Witch comic, for example, that seem to be being used in this for sort of creative effect as opposed to actual zombies. Although it would be absolutely amazing if they just went full-on Marvel zombies just for a little segment of this. Hi Apollo, thanks. It went very quiet. I was just wondering if anyone was here. I'm quite impressed that everyone's decided to stick and listen to me for this long. So yeah, we've clearly you see Vision falling apart and breaking down and being pulled to pieces in that sense. So I had mentioned, as Dan's just mentioned in that video, if you're new to my channel, go and have a look. There's 2 WandaVision videos that I started doing before these streams that are traditional proper YouTube videos. I will go back to doing them. I've got a couple of ideas for them, but it's just been a bit time consuming, as I've mentioned to people who already know me. I've just got 2 new kittens. I've also, thanks. I'm glad that you're enjoying the waffle, Dan. So as I said, I've just got 2 new kittens, and I've obviously got a marketing exam that for my own personal, for my job basically, that I'm doing in a couple of weeks. So all my time's been going on to that. But once that's done, obviously I can focus some more time onto doing these streams and onto putting out some more proper videos. Hopefully the show doesn't ruin any of my theories before I get a chance to do the videos, but we'll see. So yeah, he got out, he's broken up. I said that he might have survived in some way, and that he might have still been through. He kind of survives a little bit until he gets pulled into literal tiny fragments and pieces. So yeah, maybe I was kind of on the money with my prediction, but not completely. Maybe it takes a bigger level of power to keep him going when he's got a vibranium body, which obviously has got some weird, depending on how you view it in the MCU, it's kind of got some sort of weird properties to it other than it just being a metal. So maybe it's harder to animate or keep him alive. Maybe it's harder just without the stone as well, the Mind Stone. Who knows? Thank you, Apollo, for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Cheers, man. But yeah, that was all I've put, is it was falling apart. So maybe he's a bit too powerful to be kept completely alive. He was sort of reverting back to that grey state, but it looks like Sword must have broken him into actual tiny fragments compared to the original corpse that we saw at the end of Infinity War, because he's been pulled into fragments, which he looked like he was in that sort of state when she rescued him. So, well, rescued, I say. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. Obviously, you get the Quicksilver mentioning, not like your dead husband could die twice. So he's fully aware, whether it's again just her thoughts, thinking, well, he can't die twice, surely. And then it's just come out of his mouth, but she obviously gets pissed off and fires him into a load of boxes. I had read a couple of tiny leaks just to see whether the leaks were actually real. So there's a script floating around on Reddit. Stay away from it if you don't want it spoiling, but there is a script on there that has a mention of what happens in each episode. It's just a massive text. And I read like the first couple of lines of this episode, and it's literally spot on, even word for word, verbatim. So whoever has leaked it, Marvel have got a problem with leaks by the looks of it, but whoever has leaked this, just stay away from it if you hear anything about the leaks. I was just checking to see if it was real, but there was mention of Quicksilver getting, this version of Quicksilver getting punted in some way, and for non-UK watchers, punted, like blasted, booted, kicked across screen. So yeah, it sounds like all of these rumours are actually real. Hey up, Joe, you still here? What have you got? I don't think actual zombies will happen, as Marvel zombies will be in What If. Yeah, it's 100% Marvel zombies is in the What If episode with Captain America and the Winter Soldier on the train. It looks like maybe Hydra have accidentally revived Cap. Maybe he dies in that scenario, but it's gone a bit wrong. By the looks of it, I can't wait for What If in the summer as well. That's just going to be a fun ride. I don't know if that's maybe some of that might somehow play into the MCU, or maybe it'll just keep on its own little What If spectrum like the comics. But I'm excited for that. And I agree. I don't think we're going to get actual zombies. I'm wondering whether we'll get a projection of corpses in some way or something like that, like we're kind of seeing at the moment. We're getting nods to zombies without them actually being zombies. I don't think we'll actually get Walking Dead style Marvel zombies, although that would be super cool. Like I'm all on board with that if that suddenly happens. We might get it in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. The zombie universe is a sort of separate universe in the comics outside of the Earth 616 universe. So in that sense, zombies could actually be a thing in the MCU that we might see just a glimpse of. Maybe Strange goes through there and has to get out before he gets infected. Who knows? Maybe it's I'm just a boy dreaming of all of the possibilities that they could do in the films. So we've now got so we're coming to the close of the episode and probably close to this stream. I'm going to let you all live your lives and get on with your days. But we obviously got Darcy getting sucked into the bubble, into the hex, along with everyone else. She's obviously extended it because she's wanting to extend it to save Vision's life. She's obviously powerful enough to extend it, and it looks like she's not just extended it like a few meters, she's extending it by, it could be several miles by the looks of it, which is super interesting. And as Rajdeep mentioned earlier on, I think it was Rajdeep, it might have been Apollo, I know one of you mentioned it. I'm really sorry if I've got whoever it was that mentioned it. I'm really sorry. I'm obviously really new to streaming. I don't want to touch anything in case I break it. But someone did mention in the comments in the live chat that this could be a way of doing the sort of like the whole bubble around the world and sort of inadvertently creating mutants, sort of reverse House of M style, which it definitely feels like it could go that way. It'd be super interesting because then that would have to play out in all of the films as well, in the sense of every film that comes after it that's set on Earth or in the universe, so they're going to get covered by red hex temporarily, and then is it going to disappear because it disappears in the show and things have changed slightly? Who knows? Who knows? It's super cool and super interesting, and I'm all for it. If this is the sort of the logical way to bring mutants into the MCU, I think the best bet for me personally, my big one, would be that she sort of sparks it in some way, but people have always had the gene, and some people maybe are. Sorry, Apollo. Yeah, you've just mentioned that it was you about altering genetics. I think that my perfect scenario, being a massive nerd, is that she does that to kick it off, and that the genes are already in people that, not everyone becomes a mutant, because not everyone does in the comics, but the people that were waiting to be turned into mutants in the MCU that us as fans are waiting for are coming. Hopefully some people prior to that have already had their mutant gene unlocked. Maybe your likes of Magneto already existed and was just in hiding. Maybe we get Genosha in some way in the MCU. Xavier again could have been cloaking potentially. I know this is a big rumour from a lot of people, maybe cloaking a few hand-picked mutants over the years. Logan being 100 and odd years old or older, I guess, in this context, because the MCU's more modern. In that sense, maybe he's existed, and the Weapon X program has already been going on with Ross and whoever else since Captain America was created. So, it'd be cool if they do a nice blend of some people already existed, we just haven't seen them, or they've been in hiding, or etc. And then other people, maybe you get like Iceman, because he's sort of a young character who gets from this, is created, or Jubilee, or people like that weren't of a more adult age, more like teenager sort of age X-Men characters are created from this. What have you got, Apollo? This will almost be like Iron Man of the next MCU saga. It's going to set everything off. Yeah, I agree. And I also, like you've said there, the X gene, I think, is in everyone or in most people, or maybe she's just sort of igniting it in some way. And I think that she got ignited because of the power of the Mind Stone. I don't think the Mind Stone gave her mind-specific powers, because if you look at Quicksilver, he's got super speed. I just think that they had that internal ability that might have unlocked eventually, but it's been accelerated by this. And now, because they can't get sued by saying mutants instead of the Age of Miracles, suddenly we've got mutants popping up everywhere because of Wanda and this global outbreak of superpowered beings. And if they do tie that into Falcon and the Winter Soldier with the Weapon X program, and people that previously existed that have been in hiding or undercover or kept on ice or whatever, that already had those abilities, such as Logan, and then also the stuff to do with the Inhumans maybe playing into it in some way. If they reboot the Inhuman franchise, it'd be super interesting if they sort of have that collide and we've just got superpowered people everywhere. And as you said, in this next stage of the MCU, because everything's going to change, we're going to have multiverse stuff going on, time travel, and then loads of superpowered people just popping up all over the place, which would be super cool. So obviously I put that Wanda can make it bigger, which is similar to the House of M comics, changing all reality, etc., which we've already touched upon. And then the big one for me, which I think it was Rajdeep that mentioned earlier, I don't know if he's still with us on the chat, but he mentioned a cameo from Reed Richards. Now, the reason people are saying that is because obviously Monica keeps mentioning this this scientist-type character that she's going to meet, she's going to visit. Monica and Jimmy are on the way to go visit at the other side. Hopefully this person hasn't been sucked into the bubble as well. Obviously there's been speculation online that it could be Reed Richards. We could be getting, the Fantastic Four films coming in the next couple of years, and maybe we're just going to slowly get drip-fed Reed Richards. I think that would be too big to just drop in this series, although I would be all for it if they do. she keeps mentioning a he, which rules out Riri Williams from the Ironheart series, because again, she's of this sort of high intellect sort of level in Marvel, so it's probably not going to be her. Rhodey has got some of the characteristics that she mentions, but I don't think it's going to be him, because otherwise she'd have just mentioned Colonel Rhodes, surely. So for me, it could end up being Adam Bernard Brashear, which I am reading this. I'm not going to lie, I don't know a lot about the character. Again, Comic Drake mentions him in his Monica Rambeau breakdown, which is where it makes me think it's going to be him. Now, he plays a character, quite a new character in the comics, that's got a backstory that almost makes him one of the first superheroes in Marvel sort of lore. But in terms of actually being written, he's fairly new to the comics, and he plays a character called Blue Marvel. And as I mentioned, Comic Drake mentions on his video about Monica Rambeau, towards the end of the video, that in the more recent comic books, she ends up dating him. So I do think, for me, it's going to be Adam Bernard Brashear as Blue Marvel. He might not be Blue Marvel in this. He might be just the scientific sort of military figure that she's aware of to help them. But I do think we're sort of heading towards him and her becoming characters in the MCU, and also that they might have a relationship if that's how that goes down in the current comics. But yeah, if I can get some more information on him, I'll mention it. I don't want to be one of these guys that just spills things that anyone could check off of Wikipedia or Marvel wikis and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's just why I'm interested in these things. So I like doing these little deep dives into stuff. Hopefully at some point I'll get some more comics. I just need to find somewhere to stick them. What have we got going on in the? Oh, we've actually got Wanda Maximoff has joined us. I am now absolutely terrified. Just leave the chat as it is. Don't reverse us backwards. Don't change anything. I'll comply. Is there anything that you need us to do? What's going on in the comments then? So we've got mentioned to do with the potential kickoff of the X gene and potential kickoff of mutants in the MCU. Could be all radiation based. Yeah, it's a way of. I think that's a way of them doing it. If it's this cosmic radiation or whatever, that can be done quite naturally and quite organically. I'm just going to check to see if I've got any more notes. I haven't, so I'm going to put this down. Just talk to you guys for a few more minutes before we close this off. That would seem like the easiest way for people who are casual watchers of the MCU, people that don't know all of the sort of the history and the backstory to everything, if they use some sort of radiation thing to sort of kick off the mutation in people. The Stones gave off a radiation. There's just radiation kicking off all over the place, isn't there? There's literally radiation everywhere. Like in a normal situation, it sounds like we'd be all dead by this point. But instead it looks like everyone's getting cool or slightly scary superpowers. I've just noticed that Dan actually asked a Wanda if this is the Wanda, if she wanted anything changing. I'm gonna bring it to a close before we get shut down by her. I'm hoping everything is to your liking, please. Does anyone have anything else that they want to add? I know I've just been waffling on for an hour and 10 minutes. As some of my closer friends will know, if you don't tell me to shut up, which everyone's too kind to ever tell me to shut up, but people don't, then I'll just keep going. I know you guys have probably got your lives to live. I don't know where. I know there's obviously my friends that are in this chat that are in the UK, but if anyone's watching this and you got up at 3 a.m. to watch WandaVision, I am... I'm keeping you from going back to bed. What's Wanda put? What if Wanda creates mutants for the MCU? Yeah, so that's kind of what we've been mentioning previously, that we think this is sort of like a reverse House of M, in the sense that it could be her sort of kicking off people's sort of internal sort of mutant gene or whatever in what she does, which creates more mutants, or gives people the opportunity to become mutants, I guess. Alongside, my hope is that some people already existed in the MCU that might have already unlocked their ability that we just don't know about. What else have we got? Yeah, House of M in reverse. I think we're all in agreement that House of M in reverse is is the way it's going, and I can't wait for us to do this next week and that be completely wrong. Or by the end of this one, we do like a roundup of the series where, yeah, I can't wait for us to be all wrong. Cheers, Marvel. What's Dan put? Nothing from me, but it's been great. Looking forward to the next episode. Perhaps maybe mention anything you might expect from it. Oh, yeah, good point. Okay, so I haven't seen any trailer for the next episode. I don't know. For me, right, okay, the things that I'll be looking out for, I've just mentioned that it could be sort of like a Blue Marvel type dealio with Monica and Jimmy. So as long as they've survived, not getting sucked into the bubble, which I don't think they will. Obviously, Monica is already sort of developing her powers. I don't know if we'll see it in this series. We might see it in the finale if everyone comes to blows. But we might not see her powers materialise until Captain Marvel 2, which we know she's in. I guess the things I'd be looking out for, any more sort of like dodgy things happening around Agnes. Just can we try and figure out whether she's in on this or not? Because obviously this episode kind of threw it a little bit. I like that as well, that Wanda Maximoff in the comments has just put that Wanda will basically be a god but for mutants. Yeah, I mean, she does have, I'm pretty sure she's an Omega level mutant in the comics. Could be wrong. Pretty sure she is. This could be a way of them doing it. It'd be interesting to see what her character arc is come the end of this and what she's going to be like in Doctor Strange 2. I do think the big one is looking to see if we find out who they go and meet. It could be something so huge, like it could be Reed Richards. I still think it's going to be Brashear. It's going to be Blue Marvel. I do think that that's going to be the start of them sort of having a potentially some sort of MCU-related romance or X-romance. I know we've seen in the trailers a truck that looked like it was driving into the barrier, which, if that's the case, maybe that's what they're being given is some sort of lead. It won't be lead, it'll be something stronger than lead, but some sort of vehicle that can withstand the thing and get in there and talk to Wanda. Be interesting to see what Darcy looks like in the next episode. Like, it's going to be almost catching up to the current day. Obviously, in the MCU, are they in 2020? Is it 2025? No, it's not 2025. Is it 2023, the year that they're currently in? So, thanks to lockdown and, can't mention it because it might damage the stream. But the thing that's going on in our world right now, we're almost catching up to the actual current timeline in the MCU. So it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's done us a favour because that sounds wrong. It's obviously been awful what's happening in the world right now. But in terms of the catch up with the time skip of 5 years in Marvel, it's interesting. Hey up Laundry Day, you're back. Thanks for joining us. Quicksilver seemed like an imposter. He asked Wanda how she created this world. It was just the way he asked. Yeah, no, I agree. We mentioned further back on the stream that basically I do think he has now. I was on the fence about this being the X-Men sort of Fox universe Quicksilver, the Fox Manyverse, as I'll keep saying. I was on the fence that it might be him. But now I'm starting to think that it is him and that some of her thoughts have been projected outside of what she's trying to work out how she's got him there or what's going on. And it's just coming out of his mouth. He's almost like a puppet. He is a person, but he's almost like a puppet of her thoughts and feelings and things like that. And I think that is where the imposter side of things comes from. Could be wrong. Could 100% be, what we're all, I think some of us are praying it's like Mephisto or someone like that. Especially when it mentions like the demon Hellspawn thing as well. It could all tie up into loads of different theories. I think Marvel have played this so well with how they've done this series that it's got us all talking about it. I'm a big advocate of this weekly format because I wouldn't even be able to do this. If we'd already seen it, there'd be nothing to discuss. There'd be no fun. Half of this stuff, or 3/4 of this stuff, probably 90% of the stuff that comes out of my mouth to do with the series is going to be wrong. But it's fun to speculate, isn't it? It's fun to talk with people that like the same things. So I'm really appreciative of everyone that's jumped on the chat. If you're not already subscribed, and I don't want to be one of those YouTubers that's like and subscribe. I just, if you like what I'm doing and you want to watch it because I'm enjoying doing it, then subscribe and like the video. I'll do more streams. If people want me to do a watch along, or if we want to do a finale watch along or whatever, let me know in the comments or in the live chat, and we can, I can get myself up a little bit earlier, can sort my kittens out, and I'll come in here and we can watch it, and I'll watch it on dual monitor, and we'll check it out. Obviously, I can't show the episode because it'll get taken down for copyright, but we can watch it together and click play at the same time. Alternatively, we can just do this and you can jump on and we can chat about it after. But I'm probably going to do the episode 7 one, same as what I've done this week, probably around 9:30 UK time. Gives me a little bit of time to get set up after I've watched it. I'm going to try and watch it bang on 8 o'clock when it comes out over here, and then we can talk about it and see what happens. But I don't know what else to really predict for episode 7. Has anyone else got any predictions for episode 7 that you want to mention? Anyone? Jump in, let me know. What have we got in the comments? The Mind Stone was in the trailer. Also a big explosion, the same explosion in House of M. That was from Wanda again. And Laundry Day, I can't wait to see Monica powered up. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. I know you obviously someone that I actually know outside of the world of the internet, but I really appreciate that. I'm trying. I'm just trying to keep myself occupied during lockdown, other than this exam that I've got going on. I just wanted to come on the internet and talk about all this crazy stuff with people. So if you want to subscribe, I do appreciate it. So I'll try and give people shout outs. I'll try and talk to people in comments. I'll try and do all that interactivity that I'm sure people want. What have we got as well? So, you mentioned the Mind Stone thing. Yeah, so in the trailer, I do wonder if we're going to get a flashback to the Von Strucker, the Hydra base. Obviously, it's been teased in some of the adverts, so it does make me feel like we're going to see how she got the power. I don't think the Mind Stone is there. I don't think the Mind Stone is in the series. I don't think she's brought it back or anything like that. I think we're going to get a flashback to how the Mind Stone interacted with Aaron Taylor-Johnson and her, even if we don't see Aaron Taylor-Johnson doing new scenes. But we're going to see how they sort of got indoctrinated into Hydra. Maybe we'll get one of these episodes. It might jump to the Modern Family episode in a couple of episodes' time, because we might miss the Naughties episode, because it might do a flashback episode, which we've, is a trope of lots of modern TV that we've not actually seen yet, is a proper flashback episode. So that would be quite interesting. What else have we got? Dan's put, I think just more sword in the next episode, Jimmy and Monica centric. Yeah, would be really interesting. I think that is probably a safe bet. I do think we'll hopefully finally get a reveal of who this mysterious character is. My money's on Brashear, Adam Brashear. Is it Adam Brashear? Look, I'm outing myself. I did say that I'm not fully clued up on all this, but yeah, I think Adam Bernard Brashear, who plays Blue Marvel, is the safe bet at this stage. But if it is someone like Reed Richards, then you're gonna have to scoop me off of my sofa, and I'm gonna have to drag myself into here to do the stream, because I'll have just flopped into a state of shock, scooping my jaw up off of the floor. What have we got from Joe? Is Darcy going to be a clown in the next episode? That would be pretty cool. I don't know if she, I know there's a lot of the circus stuff going on there. Obviously, the time jump, all those people are probably going to change again. I think it was just sort of taking the mickey out of the sword agents a little bit by them being clowns, because obviously, clowns in some contexts are villainous, It, for example, even though it's not technically a clown, but let's not get into that. We're talking about WandaVision. So yeah, very interesting as to see what Darcy's going to end up being, or whether Darcy's going to have her own thought. She knows a lot more about it than people that were in the bubble from the start, from the hex from the start. So in that sense, if that is how it's going to be played out, maybe she's going to try and talk Wanda out of it again. Hopefully, she's not going to get yeeted straight out of the hex like Monica. And I did see somewhere that Kat Dennings had mentioned that Darcy is going to pop up in more things now, like as part of her contract. I do think there's going to be a through line, like I've mentioned before, with Secret Invasion being one of the shows that's coming. I do think a lot of the shows are obviously going to segue and tie up into the films, and they're going to be like must watch for big fans. But I also think that they're all very like the Defenders series on Netflix, which, potentially the less said the better, but all those shows built up to the Defenders series. I think that all of these shows are giving us nuggets that are going to build to Secret Invasion. So if like a lot of us presume, Hayward is some sort of bad Skrull in some way, shape or form, or there is some sort of Skrull element going on, that's not really the centerpiece of this show, we're going to get those nuggets that lead into Secret Invasion. What have we got here? And the vehicle driving into Hex could be them alongside whoever they meet. Yeah, I agree. I think that is going to be the key to them getting in. They mentioned like some sort of like tank-like vehicle as a joke in a few episodes back, and that she knew someone who might be able to help. So if this is all where it's going, then that could be it. I suppose the other really interesting one, it could be like Hank Pym, or Ant-Man, Scott Lang in some way, and maybe they've got a vehicle that's like that, because obviously he has quite a lot of out there stuff, does Hank, but I don't think it's going to be, I still think it's going to be potentially the Blue Marvel setup. And I agree, Wanda Maximoff in the live chat, if people keep thinking that I'm just talking about the character, that we have got Wanda Maximoff in the chat. I feel honoured. Feel very honoured and slightly scared, but she's put that she loves Darcy as well, so hopefully if that sort of carries over into the show, maybe there'll be a bit of a pally-walliness going on there. But yeah, guys, I think I'm going to call it a day. I think I've probably, like Wanda, I've held you captive for slightly too long. It sounds like it's not been against your own will, but it could have been. I could be in there. I could be controlling all of this reality where you guys are just deciding to watch this crazy man from Yorkshire talk about Marvel TV shows like a 12-year-old on the internet. But yeah, obviously this is my second ever live stream. I'm still learning. Obviously I tried to do a little countdown timer earlier. I tried to put my intro card in from my YouTube videos. I've even got a thanks for watching screen that I'm going to stick on in a second. But I'm going to try and get better at this. Obviously, until I can get in a place where I can sort of sit down and do some more videos, I've got some ideas for some videos. Don't be scared. Oh, well, it seems like Wanda's a fan of the channel anyway, so thank you. Ginger Mind Powers. Yeah, cheers, Dan. I always think I've got a bit of a mucky blonde. This is definitely ginger, but, I'm going to stop fighting it now. You just call me what you want. It's fine. But yeah, I'm going to try and do this again next week. As I've mentioned, I will try and do some regular videos at some point. I've got a couple of ideas. I've obviously got the Wayward Hayward one, which obviously a lot of people have touched upon. You can guess where that's going to go. I've obviously got a Why is Vision Grey, which I've also mentioned that I was in the pipeline. I obviously want to do some stuff to do with Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous that's been on Netflix recently and why it's super important. So there's all that stuff to come. I obviously mentioned that I want to do Creation, which was in the last episode, the nod to Charles Darwin with Paul Bettany, which I think would be an interesting thing for people to check out, because it's kind of an unwatched gem, if we will. So yeah, I'm gonna look to do all that. I'm gonna try and make these streams a bit more, a bit better each week. We'll keep doing that. We'll try and do some new regular videos if I can, but if not, I'll be here on Friday. We'll talk about episode 7. And, if people want me to do a watch along for either the finale or whatever, then let me know. If you're happy to just do it like this, I'll just keep doing it like this because it's easy enough. I know there's tons of other people doing watch alongs on much bigger channels than my own, but I really appreciate anyone that has come and checked this out with me. I just couldn't sit all day after watching it at 8 a.m. and not talk about it with people, and this is much easier than sending the same 6 messages to my friends that messaged me about it. So you've got everything off the top of my head. If you've come up with any other thoughts or theories, put them in the comments down below. Obviously, if you enjoyed this, you can like and subscribe, but you don't have to do what I'm telling you to do. I'm not Wanda after all. And yeah, I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Super appreciate it. This is gonna be super awkward, as I just don't mind me. I'm just gonna, this is all completely normal. Thanks for watching.